Okie dokie. All right, it's 2 minutes past. Let's get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Newham Sixth Form College. My name's Rob Bean, and I am a teacher of politics at A-level. So thank you all so much for coming and joining us this morning. Today with us also is Amina. Amina is one of our current Year 12 students. So she's just completed her first year of politics study, and she'll be moving on to Year 13 after the summer holidays. She's going to be here to answer any questions that you might have about the course and things like that. So if you do want to, if you've got a question about the course while the session's going on, do whack a question into the chat box, and Amina's going to do her best to get round to responses. There's also going to be a little bit of time where she'll also say a few words about the course towards the end of the session. So for today, what we're going to do is, rather than just kind of give you all of this, this is what you do on politics course and everything, politics A-level, just going to do a little bit of interactive quiz, hopefully, and you will get a few ideas about what you would study on a politics A-level through the quiz. No great prizes for, coming first and getting all well, actually, if you do get all the answers right, come down to the college and we'll get you box chocolates or something like that. No big prizes, no big commiserations if you don't know any of this stuff. This is stuff that you would learn as you're kind of going through the course. So we're going to do a quiz. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the course, and then there'll be an opportunity as well to have some Q&A with myself and with Amina as well. Okay, so is everybody doing good? I hope you're doing good this morning. You can, put in the chat box or something. Hello, I'm having a good morning, etc., etc. But otherwise, we will get on to doing a little bit of a quiz. Okay, and these are about the different and various aspects of the politics A-level. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. Back to this online learning, sharing screens and so forth. Here we go. And we're going to bring up this now. Okie dokie. So we've got a little bit of a quiz coming up. You can keep your you can keep tally, keep score as you're going along. At the end of each round, we will tally up the answers. Take a note of your answers as we go through the quiz. Keep your score at the end of the round. Each quiz section, like I say, is based on an area of study on the A-level politics course. Good luck. Right, the first round is on UK elections and UK political parties. This is one area of the course which we study, looking at elections in recent years, also looking at the role of political parties in our political system. Question is, and also the connections with the media, there's a little bit about the media as well, and the role that the media play in politics. So the question is, which British daily newspaper has famously backed every election-winning party since 1979? There have been 11 elections since 1979. Some of them have been won by Labour, some of them have been won by the Conservatives. This newspaper, and it is one of the ones which you can see in the picture, has famously backed the winner every time. Could it be? All right, we'll move on to the second question in this round as well. Right, regarding parties, again, which are the three biggest parties in the UK in terms of seats in the House of Commons? Which three political parties have the largest number of seats in the House of Commons? Point for each one that you get right here. About 5 questions in this round. Ooh, you probably all know one of them. Probably all know 2 of them. About the third one. Who's the third biggest? Okay. All right, just give you a couple more seconds on that. And off we go to the next question. Right. If Labour, or rather, what percentage of seats would Labour have won if only 18 to 24-year-olds had voted in the last election? If only 18 to 24-year-olds were voting in the election in 2019, where Boris Johnson won a big majority in Parliament, if that election had only been open to 18 to 24-year-olds, what percentage of seats would Labour have won? Give a percentage. 50%, 60%, 64%, 20%, 100%, whatever you think. Have a go, have a think. And I'll show you the answer to that in a moment or so. Okay, and the next one is true or false question. More people voted in the EU referendum in 2016 than in the general election in 2019. Is that true or false? More people voted in the EU referendum in 2016 than in the last general election. What do we think about that? And then the final question in this round in elections and parties is, in 2017, Prime Minister Theresa May, she squandered her government majority by going for an early election. When those election results came through, she didn't have a government majority anymore. She depended on the support of a small party. Which party was it? Which party was it? Which party did she need support from in order to run her government? Okie dokie. We'll go through some answers now on this. All right. So what have we got? The newspaper that has supported every single election winner since 1979 is The Sun. Would you believe it? They got that famous headline in 1997. It's The Sun what won it. Oh my gosh. Was it really? Or was it Labour's policies? Who knows? Okay. A little bit of speculation there, a little bit of speculation. The role of the media, the role of political parties with their policies. One of those kind of discussions which we had in politics class. Who are the three biggest parties? The Conservatives, sure you got that. Labour, I would hope that you've got that. And the Scottish National Party, the SNP, have the third largest amount of seats in the country. If only 18 to 24-year-olds would have been voting in the last election in 2019, Labour would have won 83% of seats, rather. Check this out. The map on the left represents what represents all of the areas that would have voted Labour, and the map on the right actually represents what it would have been if only 65 plus would have voted, people aged 65 and older. So clear age divide, you know, between younger constituents in the country, older constituents in the country. Older people tend to vote for the Conservatives. Younger people tend to vote for Labour. Why is that? It's a kind of another question which we, you know, have a bit of a discussion about in politics class. So, you know, things to think about there. Generational divides in politics. Question number 4 was true. It was true that more people voted in the EU referendum than voted in the last general election. 72% of the population voted in the EU referendum. Was that enough? Maybe it should have been more. Maybe it should have been, you know, for such a big decision, We should have been making compulsory voting, another kind of discussion which we can have. In the last general election, only 68% voted. And the final question, final response was the Democratic Unionist Party from Northern Ireland was the party which Theresa May depended on for support in 2017. Okie dokie. So just coming back from sharing screen just for a moment and coming back here. Brilliant. We've got some questions coming through. Was there any questions? I heard somebody coming on mic. Anybody want to ask? If you want to ask, take a note. We'll look at that in a few moments' time. We'll continue. We'll go on with round 2 with the quiz. We'll go back here. Excusez-moi. And from the current slide, right, round 2. Round 2 is about UK government. Okay, this is another area which we study on the course. We look at the government of the UK. We look at the Parliament. We look at the office of the Prime Minister. We look at the Constitution, how the government works. And having a little bit of knowledge of history is really important on this area of the course. Have a go at this one. Put the following prime ministers in the order in which they served. Following prime ministers in the order in which they served. Got Gordon Brown, Margaret Thatcher, Boris Johnson, Tony Blair, John Major, Theresa May, David Cameron. All of the UK prime ministers since 1979. Give you a minute or so for that one. Another 10 seconds. And then some of the famous things that they are remembered for. Those prime ministers, what are they remembered for? Here we've got a few historical occasions and policies: the EU referendum, privatization and economic reform, the Iraq war, the 2008 financial crisis, government splits over Europe, the COVID-19 pandemic. What are these prime ministers remembered for? Which event is linked to which prime minister? Give you another 10 seconds or so. Okay, and then just one. Oh, no, we're right onto the answers. Apologies. Right, here we go. The correct order on this was Margaret Thatcher. She was elected in 1979, spent 11 years in office. 1990, her own party threw her out, elected John Major instead. He was the new prime minister. He lasted 7 years. He won an election in 1992, but became more and more unpopular. 1997, Tony Blair becomes prime minister, New Labour new era for British politics. He lasts 10 years in office until 2007. He's replaced by his colleague, Labour Party colleague, Gordon Brown, who is then elected out of office in 2010, the 2010 general election by David Cameron. Cameron, he lasts 6 years. He wins an election, another election in 2015. But after the EU referendum, which didn't go his way, he steps down from office. Theresa May becomes Prime Minister. She's Prime Minister from 2016 to 2019. And again, she's thrown out by her. Well, actually, she resigns because it's too difficult to manage the Tory party at the time of the Brexit negotiations. So she resigns. Johnson takes over. He's just won an election in 2019. Looks like he's going to be here to stay for a little while. Some of the events and policies that they're linked to, the EU referendum, very much linked to David Cameron. That was his, kind of brainchild. That was his policy that he was pursuing. He wanted to give the country a choice on whether we remain in the EU or not. And he campaigned to stay in the EU. And when we voted to leave, he also left office. Economic reform and privatisation, big policy under Thatcher. If you come and do the politics course at A level, we'll look at the kind of economic dimension of politics as well, and how Thatcher made big changes to the economy, which we feel very much to this day. The Iraq War, very unpopular, led to the downfall of Blair, didn't it, ultimately? And a terrible tragedy for all of those who were caught up in it. But, part of Blair's legacy is very much going to be linked to the Iraq War. The 2008 financial crisis happened when Gordon Brown was in office, and he got a lot of blame for it. He got a lot of stick for it, rightly or wrongly. Government splits over Europe have always been consistent. If you got either Major, Cameron, or May, you're on the right line there. The Conservatives have this thing about Europe that they seem to always have very divided ideas. Some of the Conservatives like staying in Europe. Some of them like leaving European Union. The Leavers have certainly had their say in recent years. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic is, very much an area of events and history and policy that is, that we're going to remember Boris Johnson's work on. Okay, a couple more quick rounds, and then we'll move on to talking a little bit about the course. Third round is on political ideas. So I want you to use these clues to make the name of a political ideology. Yeah. A set of principles, set of ideas. For example, like communism is like an ideology. It's not one of the answers to any of these, but the set of ideas, set of principles about how government should be run. Here we've got 8 in total. I'm going to give you about a minute and a half to see if you can get the names of those different political ideologies. There's a little clue there to help you with it. Another 15 seconds or so. Okie dokie. Let's have a look at these then. So what political ideas are linked to following things? Liberalism was the first one, a little bit of a tricky one there, but liberals, very much the ideology believing in parliamentary democracy, rule of law, protection of individual rights. Look at all of this stuff in our politics course as well. The ideology of tradition, monarchy, family values, this kind of stuff, conservatism. Socialism, another ideology. These first three we give quite an in-depth study to throughout the course. The socialism, down with capitalism, you know, either reforming capitalism or destroying capitalism. There are different types of socialists, but you know, basically, you know, the big idea behind socialism is criticizing capitalism and looking to either, like I say, reform or destroy it, depending on which you know, end of the spectrum you're coming at. Equality of the sexes, feminism. We also look at feminist politics. You know, we look at issues which are facing girls, which facing women. We also look at, you know, why feminism is an issue for boys too. You know, and looking at how feminist politics help shape our ideas about creating a kind of more equal society, particularly equality of the sexes. Anarchism is the idea of no government. Pretty wacky, pretty zany, but that does come into the course at various points. The ideology of more green politics, ecologism, we will look at that as well at some points in the course. Notion and the idea of my country first, nationalism, putting one's own country first before other interests, and then the idea of, you know, celebrating diversity, multiculturalism. Bit of a tricky round on that one. Well done if you got any of those. So good job there. Okay, final round on this here politics quiz is about global politics. All of the answers to these questions are countries around the world. Okay, so which major power was kicked out of the Group of Eight? Group of Eight is the most powerful, economically advanced nations in the world. USA is part of it. UK is part of it. There are some other countries who are part of it. One of them was kicked out for invading its neighbor in 2014. Who was that? Who was that? Which major power has been building man-made islands near its coastline in order to increase its military and naval power? I'll give you a clue there. It's not the UK. It's not the UK. I mean, whether the UK is a major power or not anymore, it's debatable. I know what the Conservative government would like us to think. Brexit, we're a great power again. Which African country, divided by war and conflict, provides the world's largest supply of coltan, a key component in mobile phones, in laptops, all of the technology that you like to use to communicate with each other? Which major power left the Paris Climate Agreement? The climate change agreement, the agreement between all of the countries of the world about, you know, curbing climate change and doing more to protect the environment. Which major power left that agreement in 2017 and then rejoined only just this year in 2021? And then final question, which two countries have willingly given up their nuclear weapons and currently don't have any? It's a clue for you there. One is in Africa and one is in Europe. Give you a minute or so to think about responses to those. Okay, and let's check the answers for that one. Russia. Russia was kicked out of the group of 8 powerful countries, powerful economically, industrially advanced countries, for invading its neighbor, Ukraine, back in 2014. Has created a huge political storm internationally, and we'll look at this in due course in the course. China has been building man-made islands off its coastline in order to increase its military power, to counter the power of the United States in Asia. China is a huge growing economy, will likely be, you know, the dominant world power within our lifetime. So we'll look a little bit at the rise of China as well during the course. Democratic Republic of Congo, one of the largest countries in Africa, very sadly torn apart by war and conflict, get a lot of minerals, including coltan for your mobile phones in there. And a key kind of question which comes out of this is that shouldn't Western nations and Western companies who are, you know, doing quite well in the mobile phone trade do more to help resolve some of the issues of conflict in Congo? Question mark. What could be done? What should be done? The USA left the Paris Climate Agreement under President Trump. President Trump is no more. Got President Biden now. Biden brought the United States back in. Trump was a climate change denier. You know, I don't know what people think about that. A little bit of a dangerous idea, that climate denial. You know, looking forward, you know, more needs to be done to protect the environment. Joe Biden has very much been a president who has been supporting that idea. Final question. 2 countries have given up their nuclear weapons willingly. One was South Africa in the 1980s, and one was Ukraine in the 1990s. I wonder if Russia would have invaded Ukraine if Ukraine would have had those nuclear weapons. Again, something to think about. Okay, listen, great, wonderful, 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 lovely. That's a little, those are a few questions there. A few questions there about the course. And that gives you kind of overview of some of the different things that we look at in the course. So UK politics, UK government, political ideas and ideologies, and global politics as well. I see that the chat has been going along nicely. Thank you so much, Amina, for your wonderful commentary alongside this. Okay, so my question now is over to you. Is there anything that you would like to know about the course? And I tell you what, while you're kind of, you know, putting that together, while you're thinking about some of those ideas, you might have a question you want to put into the chat box. I'm going to ask Amina. Amina, what's it like studying politics at Nuvik? How have you found your first year?
I found it quite interesting. Like most people there, it was like very like quiet at first, but the more you did, the more interesting it got. Especially with someone like Rob as our teacher, he likes to bring in a lot of like external things that aren't on the course, and it makes things more interesting in class. He brings in, like we do news round every morning before we start lessons. So we check out the latest headlines and we talk about it together. There's a question in the chat.
Do you want to go on mute? Because we get the feedback. We're in the same room, actually. Right, how are we examined? Right, actually, I'll come on to that. I'll let Amina come in on a couple, on a bit more about the course in a second. Oh, I need to present again. Perils of online learning. Where's my present screen? So what you've got, Humaira, is this. So basically, it's 100% exam. I mean, you know, let's see where all of this stuff goes with COVID, you know, to be perfectly honest. you know, because I know that exams have been, you know, kind of disrupted in recent years. But in principle, it's supposed to be 100% exam. And there are 3 papers in that exam. One paper is on UK politics. You look at democracy, elections, political parties, and political ideas. Paper 2 is UK government. You look at things like constitution, parliament, prime minister, and again, some more political ideas. And then paper 3 is about global politics. We look at things like the UN, globalization, the changing nature of global power. It's a very, very interesting part of the course. And yeah, you know, all 3 exams are 2 hours long. Each exam has 84 marks in it. You're expected to answer either 3 or 4 questions in that 2 hours. And it's, like I say, all 100% exam. So I hope that that covers your question. Does that answer your question, Humaira? Brilliant. Excellent. Anything else, Amina? Amina, what have you enjoyed particularly regarding, you know, kind of the topics or, you know, the, you know, different areas of politics? Which have you found most interesting and most kind of most fun when you've been studying this last year?
I really liked all the case studies that came up, like the Daniel Morgan's case, for example. It was a case about a journalist who was killed and how that links in with a lot of institutional problems within the corruption within the police and politicians and the media. Also like the case study of the race relations report and how that came out recently, and how the government denied there being racism in the UK, institutional racism in the UK. And I also liked, there was another case study that we did on lobbying and Green Seal with David Cameron. Despite him no longer being in government, you still keep your eye on ex-prime ministers. What are they doing? Tony Blair's grown a mullet. Interesting. Great. Yeah, so definitely like still looking at politics as it goes. Also, politics isn't like other courses. It's like every day it's changing more and more. Like the course spec has to change every couple of years because of how rapidly changing it is, and it's so interesting. It's unlike other subjects because it's very similar to history, for example, because so many things are happening and so many events are changing as the days go on. It's a subject that's alive in your hands, and you're very much in it and aware of the world around you when you take it.
No, brilliant. Thanks for that, Amina. You know, it is something which we do on the course, like Amina says. You know, looking at the news is really, really important aspects of this course. So, you know, you kind of being aware, paying attention, watching your BBC News, your Channel 4 News, etc., give you some really good understanding of what's going on in the kind of political world. And we do use that in order to, you know, kind of build up our knowledge, build up our understanding, build up our critical thinking about the world around us. And they're also, you know, super useful when it comes to writing your essays and your assignments and stuff like that, that you've got some good examples and some good case studies which are going in there. You know, so, you know, it's a very, very important aspect of the course as well. Any other questions which anybody has, which they're able to, which they would like to know a little bit more about the course? Is there anything that you can do over the summer to prepare for the course? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's loads of things you could do. The first thing I would say is just, you know, watching the news I'd like to say every day, you know, maybe even 2 or 3 times a day, but, you know, maybe you're not going to be a politics nerd like I am. But, you know, watching the news regularly and finding out about what the kind of latest and biggest stories are. Over the weekend, we saw a really big story. Matt Hancock, you know, has resigned from government because he was caught breaking the COVID rules when he was having a little cuddle with his aide there. which you may, kind of be aware of. That's an important story because it will change things in government now. Now we have Sajid Javid coming in, things will change in the structure of government and the nature of government. So, do have a look at that. Do, kind of look at the news, look at the media and what's going on there. Find out about political parties. That's another thing that you can do. Do a little bit of research on the Conservatives, do a little bit of research on Labour Party. You could find out about your own local MP and what your local MP, kind of does, what their interests are. That would be another, kind of fun and interesting way to think about politics. Another thing that you could do, I'll put all of these in the chat in a minute so that you can kind of copy them down. You could also think about what kind of causes or what, campaigns you are interested in. There's lots and lots of kind of campaigns going on out there, from environmental campaigns, to things around, anti-racism, like Black Lives Matter and stuff like this. There are campaigns regarding, the arms industry and trying to get Britain to sell, less weapons to countries around the world and things like that. Have a think about, what area of politics you're interested in. Do a little bit of research on that as well. Yeah. Like Armin has put in the chat as well, there are documentaries about, different prime ministers on, there are documentaries about different prime ministers on YouTube. And what I can do, actually, if you've registered onto this course, I can just put a little sheet together of a few documentaries that you could watch about, Margaret Thatcher or Tony Blair or David Cameron. So there are quite a range of different things. Like I say, news, finding out about your local MP, finding out about campaigns which are important to you, political issues which are important to you, and then also maybe watching some documentaries about Tony Blair, Margaret Thatcher, David Cameron as well. Also really good. Cool. Any other questions? Any other questions? Does that answer your question, Lisa? Amar, yeah, okay, brilliant. Thanks, Elisa. And Amar, in global politics, do we look at things such as the Free Palestine movement as a case study and the persecution of Uyghur Muslims in China? We do look at both. Both do feature in the course, not as prominently as perhaps I would like to. These are very important global political issues, and you could spend an entire 2-year course looking at just these issues themselves, but they do feature, yes. We do a case study on human rights in China regarding the Uyghur Muslims, and we do a case study on Israel, Palestine, and the United Nations. That's also an area, which does come into the course, yeah. So you can learn a little bit more about those things as well. So I think that's answered as well from Amara. Cool. It is, we do look at loads of, yeah, brilliant topical, we like to keep it topical. We like to have those discussions. It's really important we learn about those things. And yeah, of course, like Armin has said, you can always do a little bit of summer reading on these things. Just going to finish off then. Oh, I need to share screen again. It's been so long since I've been doing the online learning. It's almost like I've forgotten how to do it. Right. Just a kind of one final thing which I had for you as well. Was just thinking about some of the links that we have and some of the progression that students make as well. Up to the COVID pandemic, we had kind of regular visits, trips to Parliament, to the Cabinet Office, which is in Downing Street, got to go to 10 Downing Street, it's really cool. Mayor of London, the London Assembly, go for a tour around there as well. So finding out about, actually visiting political institutions. We haven't, unfortunately, been able to do that since COVID, and I'm sure you can understand the reasons behind that. We do have links with some MPs. We were really, really fortunate. Zara Sultana, a young Muslim female MP from Coventry, done an online session with us this last year, where she came, she talked to the students, answered questions. She's really, really lovely person. She was we try and do things like this. We've had Stephen Timms in the past, who's a local MP for East Ham. There's been links. We've had links previously to summer schools, at the LSE, at Stephen Timms' parliamentary office. So we try and, get out of the classroom as much as possible, try and bring learning into the wider world as much as possible. There are limitations on that, obviously, at the moment due to COVID. So hopefully that's going to clear up in the time which you're doing your course. And then in terms of progression as well, if you're thinking about, what can politics do for me in terms of career? Could it be central government? You could go into the civil service. We have former students who have gone on to work for central government, could work for local government, could work for charities and non-governmental bodies. The United Nations, does have offices in the UK, and there's no reason to stop you from getting involved with an organization like the United Nations. Many of our students tend to go on and study law. There's quite a strong connection between politics and law. So if you're thinking about the law route as well, politics is a really, really good subject to get you, understanding things, about how the legal system works, or how the political aspects of the legal system works in this country and globally. Education, we've had, many of our former students have gone on to become teachers, and many more. It's a really useful subject that can lead to all sorts of different, kind of career outcomes and things like that. So, it's a very diverse subject, very contemporary, very current, and hopefully very interesting. I mean, I would say so myself, and I'd like you to come and join us as well. So we're about at our time, but I will take just a couple more questions if we do have any. We'll work through a think tank, pressure group. Yep. Do we get to talk about the head of state? We're talking about the Queen here, Rio, because the Queen officially is the head of state. And of course, it is a question that comes up, what is the role of the monarchy in today's political system? And, do we want to change that in any way, potentially? We talk about different prime ministers. If you're thinking about the prime minister of the head of state, they're the kind of de facto head of state. The head of state, in reality, they run the affairs of the government. Yeah, we talk loads about Johnson. We talk loads about, previous prime ministers. There's a whole topic of study where we go in depth and look at the actions of some previous prime ministers. Yeah. Cool. Okay, listen, we just gone a little bit over time. So what I'm going to do for you, if you've signed up and registered for this session, I'm going to put together a little fact sheet for you that will hopefully be mailed out by the marketing team that can tell you a little bit about things that you can do over the summer. But it was lovely to see you all today. I hope you're having a good day, with the inductions and finding out a lot about the college. And welcome. Really look forward to seeing you all in September. So until then, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.